Comes to order. Welcome to the November 20th Rutherford County School Board meeting. Tonight, Mr. Hodge will be leading us in our pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Would you join the board in a moment of silence, please? Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Holliday and Mr. Hodge. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Young and second by Mr. Estes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And we do have a visitor. Okay. Tonight, we have Ms. Pam King. Ms. King, if you'll come forward, and would you restate your name and your address, and you know you have 3 minutes, and you've been with us before.
Yes, I am.
So, welcome, and glad to have you.
Thank you. My name is Pam King. I live at 609 Federal Court in Murfreesboro. And what I wanted to talk about very, very briefly was last week I attended the get-together between the Rutherford County School and the Murfreesboro City School and the legislators. It was a great meeting. The general consensus was around the table was sort of anti-Common Core, which you know. Most people felt that the state and local school boards should set the standards, not the federal government. Since last week, there have been 2 bills and a resolution introduced in the state to dismiss Common Core. Apparently, the teachers and the parents have voiced their displeasure with the federal government dictating what should be taught in Tennessee schools. From the comments made at the meeting, the amount of homeschooled students has risen, and discussion about losing highly qualified teachers was evident. Many teachers that I have talked to personally about Common Core have said they're very, very unhappy with it. They really do not like it at all. The reason most of them have told me the reason they don't say anything is fear of losing their jobs, which I think is unfortunate. I don't know that that's necessarily a fact, but that's how they feel. And that's all I'm going to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. And I think we've all had comments about the success of that legislative meeting along with our sister board, the city. So anything from the board? Mr. Odom?
I shared with the board this week one of the bills, Senator Gresham's bill, did send that to all the board members, so they've all had a chance to read that also.
Okay. Mr. Odom, I think we're doing Spotlight.
We are doing a Spotlight, and the Spotlight tonight is for Atlas, and Kim Snell leads that for us. It's Academic Time Leads to Achieving Students. It's a program we have, basically what was the homeless population under the McKinney-Vento Act. So, Ms. Snell, bring us up to date.
All right. Well, this week happens to be National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week, which always falls on the week before Thanksgiving. Did you want me to stand closer to the microphone? I'm sorry. So this is an appropriate time for us to talk about hunger and homelessness, which is what we're going to be talking about. Atlas is the homeless education program for Rutherford County Schools, and it is the way that we are in compliance with the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. It requires every school system to have a liaison for homeless education, and that is my position. And students have certain rights under the McKinney-Vento Act. Who qualifies for Atlas? Children who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. This is not necessarily the children that you may think of as being homeless. They don't have to be living under a bridge or in a car or in a shelter. They may be sharing the housing of others due to a loss of housing or economic hardship. We also have a large number in motels. We have a few in campgrounds, emergency or transitional shelters, sometimes transitional housing paid for by another agency, awaiting foster care placement, or children who have run away or have been abandoned by their parents. This kind of gives you a history of the Atlas program in Rutherford County School and how our numbers have increased over the years. I was the counselor at Smyrna Primary when the program started, and as such, I was the Atlas contact person at that school. And I remember going to a meeting and thinking, we don't have any homeless kids in Rutherford County. We identified 95 kids that very first year, and we thought, wow. Well, as you can see, we got up to 1,037, which is bigger than many of our schools, a bigger population than many of our schools. Today, we have Atlas students in every school in Rutherford County Schools. We have 810 students identified as of today. Last year, we did not reach 800 until February. This shows you the breakdown. We have 118 kids living in motels, and we're not talking about Embassy Suites. We're talking about the Regal Inn, the Jackson Motel, Knights Inn, those kinds of motels. We also have a few in campsites and in their vehicles, and emergency shelters, and like I said, transitional housing provided by agencies. Unaccompanied youth, the definition under McKinney-Vento is a student eligible for public school regardless of age, so he can be over 18, or he can be 3, 4, 5 years old, who is not in the physical custody of a legal guardian and is in a homeless situation, and we have 164 of those identified as of today. So how do we help them in Rutherford County Schools? Well, McKinney-Vento requires us to eliminate barriers and provide services to support the enrollment, attendance, and academic success of children experiencing homelessness. So we're going to look at these. Supporting enrollment, we work on identification of students. We use a student residency questionnaire for all students. We have an Atlas contact person at every school. All school faculties receive annual training on the rights of homeless students, including immediate enrollment. This is one of the rights of homeless children under McKinney-Vento. They have the right to enroll immediately, even if they don't have all the required documentation, including immunizations, proof of residence, etc. And then we have posters and brochures in all the schools, as well as shelters, health department, and other agencies where families go to receive services. As far as supporting enrollment, again, raising awareness of the Atlas program in the community. I serve on the Homeless Task Force Executive Committee. I'm on the board of CADCOR, the Child Advocacy Center Board, Read to Succeed Literacy Council, Our Connection, and the UT-TSU Extension Advisory Council. And I will say that every one of these partnerships has resulted in improved services or increased recognition and support of our homeless program. Also train faculties on homelessness and poverty. I'm a certified poverty simulation facilitator. A poverty simulation is an experiential activity in which the participants try to survive a month in poverty. We've done it at these schools that have been listed, and we have upcoming at Smyrna Middle and at Oakland Middle, partnering with Daniel McKee for their faculty. And this is something that I think has a big impact because it's a hands-on activity that they actually feel what it feels like. Supporting attendance, transportation is a big issue. McKinney-Vento says that students can, according to their best interest, enroll in their school of zone or stay in their school of origin. Their school of origin can be the school that they attended when they were last permanently housed or the school in which they were last enrolled. That can be one or two different schools. And it's generally considered to be in the child's best interest to keep them in their school of origin to the extent feasible, unless against the parents' or guardians' wishes. And this is because they lose so much academic progress every time that they change schools during the school year. So we have a dedicated person to handle Atlas transportation requests, and so far this year we've arranged transportation to enable more than 130 Atlas students to remain in their schools of origin. Many of these students have already moved several times during the school year. If we can't arrange bus transportation, for example, if they're outside of Rutherford County, we work with the other county to collaborate on transportation and pay gas reimbursement to the parent to bring them to, allow them to stay in their school of origin. Meeting basic needs, we do a lot. We provide a lot of school supplies, homework supplies, special project supplies, and hygiene supplies, as well as school clothing when the Rutherford County School Clothing Fund is depleted. Kingwood Church of Christ has a coat drive for us every year. They brought 300 coats to us on Friday, and most of those are out in the schools already. I have about 10 or 15 toddler-sized coats and some adult women's coats, and that's pretty much it that's left. We have one or two of a few other sizes, but those are already out in the schools. We do provide summer camp through Boys and Girls Club. We pay for any Atlas student who can get there to attend their summer camp. And then we work with Candle Wishes, the agency, to provide birthday parties and gifts for Atlas students up to age 12. Food, like I said, this is National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. We provide weekend food backpacks, or we get weekend food backpacks from Second Harvest. We get 124 boxes every month that are distributed out to many of our schools. But then we also have all of these other partners that help with providing weekend food to others, to some of our schools. Fellowship United Methodist provides weekend food through their fuel program to Rockdale Elementary and Rockdale Middle. First United Methodist of Laverne to Laverne Primary, Laverne Lake, and Roy Waldron. First United Methodist of Smyrna to Smyrna Elementary. Life Point Church in Smyrna is starting in January providing food to Stewartsboro. Midland Baptist Church, through their Journey of Hope program, provides to Christiana Elementary. And the Smyrna Laverne Food Bank provides weekend food to Cedar Grove, John Coleman, and Smyrna Primary. We also have gotten school snacks from United Way and MTSU. Kingwood Church of Christ small groups have adopted 8 schools that they provide school snacks regularly to, and the Murfreesboro Lioness Club has donated school snacks and hygiene supplies to the Atlas program for several years. And at this time, I would like to recognize our friends who are helping us with these programs. From Kingwood Church of Christ, if you would stand, please. From the Lioness Club. From Laverne First Methodist. From Smyrna First Methodist. If anyone is here from Midland Baptist Church, United Way, or MTSU, or Life Point. All right, thank you so much. Can we give all these people a hand? There is no way that we could help as many kids as we do without the support of all of these community partners. I'm so thrilled to have them here tonight. And supporting academic success is the third area of the Atlas program. McKinney-Vento states that students experiencing homelessness are entitled to Title I services, even if they attend a school that does not receive Title I funds. We work closely with our Title I department, and Title I monitors the academic progress of Atlas students in all Rutherford County schools. Remediation plans are required for any Atlas students who are failing a class, and 3 Title I teachers provide academic support to Atlas students. And of course, Amy Wise is our Title I director, and Cindy McCreary and Joyce Edie are here tonight as 2 of our Atlas Title I teachers. Thank you to those as well. If you want more information, there are some links that you can go to, or you can always contact me, Snell K, at rcschools.net. Thank you very much.
Board members, questions, comments?
I've had one notable experience during my time as a board member of being the first contact with an Atlas student. And it was absolutely a joy to be able to connect that student with our Atlas coordinators and see just the embrace that our system had for that student. And the way that student was accepted, immediate enrollment, success, just a concern that you don't expect when government is supposed to be so antiseptic. This is a program that says you're important, you matter, and recognizes the child for the potential that they have It is absolutely essential. Thank you so much. And thank you to the community partners for what you do and for partnering with us. There was a story on NPR this morning that talked about the charter school system and the deficiency that comes when each individual school is its own island. It's only when we partner together that we can really have this kind of impact. And it's why it's so important that our public education system continue to be able to serve the entire community, no matter where they come from or what their needs are, that our education system is ready for them and embraces them and accepts them. This is the place where the American dream still lives, because any child of any circumstances can come and apply themselves and absolutely change their lives.
Ms. Snell, you serve quite a few during the year when a child's house may burn.
Yes.
A good number of those. It's one of those things that we hear, oh, what a tragedy. What's there maybe to help that family or pick them up or see that those children can get back to school and try to assume some normalcy of their life? This program does that. That's what we do. And it doesn't hurt that she has a husband that's a transportation director that helps get some of these things accomplished to get these kids where they belong.
That's right.
Successful in spite of him, I suspect. I did
Part of my
I did have a question about the two that were in the vehicle, especially as frigid as these evenings and the nights have been. I know you make the information available for care, but I guess you can't force unless you notify DCS or something that they may be in harm's way.
That's right, that's right. And we do have resources in the community, and we do get them connected. That's one of the reasons that I am so active in the community, so that we know what the resources are and so that we can get them connected. We have in our county something called Coldest Nights, which is for men, that they can sleep at First Baptist downtown on nights when the temperature is below freezing. And then we have Way of Hope, which is a moving shelter for women and children that also, they can show up there any day at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and they can stay at whatever church they go to the journey home, and then they take them to whatever church they're staying at. So there's no need for anybody in Rutherford County not to have a place to sleep on a very cold night. I do think that both of those have probably gotten connected with services and resources and are not in their vehicles at this time. That's how they were identified. That's how they started out. But hopefully that's not where they are right now. And I'm pretty certain of that.
And I think the general public, seeing those numbers, would be surprised by the number of homeless children that we have in our system.
They always are.
And that we are required to transport them back to their school of origin, or literally, I guess, of choice in that situation.
Well, not complete choice. It's either their school of origin or their school of zone.
Zone, okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Some of the board members that's been here may remember about this time last year or so, the Holloway valedictorian, they discovered that he was sleeping in his car. That Embassy Suites area was one of the safest places to be because it was well lit and all. But we were able to do some Atlas work, connect him up. He's on a full ride scholarship at MTSU now, and Dr. McPhee is helping to watch over him and mentor him some. So, again, another success of a boy that was really on his own.
A few years ago, the governor of Boise State was one of my students.
Really.
Again, God bless you for this work, and certainly God bless our partners out there providing. So many children would be hungry if these backpacks did not go home over the weekend. So,
Thank you.
again, thank you. Anything else, board members?
I'd just like to echo those sentiments. I think it's heartbreaking that there should be a need for a program like this to begin with, but I'm extremely impressed with the things that your group has accomplished, and just want to say thank you personally to all the community partners. This is huge, and we appreciate your taking care of those children.
All right, old business, Mr. Odom, I think you may have a recommendation too.
The five-year building plan, I've shared with you some additional information since we met Tuesday night. I think Dr. Pewitt did a good analysis for the needs at Roy Waldron School, considerable needs there. We also looked at some of the other schools. My recommendation tonight is for us to delay the full five-year building program plan, but authorize us an opportunity to begin negotiation for some of the land or property that will be needed for this plan. That will allow us to, we do this negotiation to get closer on actual cost and estimation figures for that, and still put us in place to be able to go to the commission, I think, this winter. And we got a commissioner back there with us, Mr. Schaefer. Glad to have you with us tonight. We can go to work on some of this property. You visited some of the ones for, of course, our priority is growth and a place to house them, 146 portables for people that are listening to us over television tonight. So that's a real need for us, and as we've grown in the last 2 years, it looks like the number's about 1,800 students in the last 2 years alone. Of course, in the last full school we opened up being Stewart's Creek High School, which was a year ago, and this year we're working on Smyrna Primary and Blackman Middle and doing the addition at Eagleville. We're still building capacity, but not full school amount. So my recommendation for you, rather than us trying to nail down the exact five-year building plan and what we do each year tonight, would give us a little bit more time to do some negotiation on some of the property costs so that we can begin to move forward on that. And then we'll come back either if you want to add it to the 4th or your other meeting in December and try to see if we don't have a little bit firmer figures on what some of it might be.
I'll just speak to this. When we look at the possibility, and we discussed Tuesday night in our work session, the possibility of shifting some of these priorities and sorting them and which is first and second, it's an incredibly complicated process that we are a little deficient this evening with Mr. Clardy, our Assistant Superintendent of Engineering, and also Mr. Sandvig, our Assistant Superintendent of Accounting and Finance. Both these gentlemen, hard workers, but circumstances have taken them away from the boardroom this evening. And for us to attempt to shift these priorities around without their counsel is a particular challenge. And so I agree with Mr. Odom. Also, though, it is essential that we move forward on some of these land issues and start the negotiating process contingent on funding and such, and see if we can move in that direction. So, Mr. Odom, I appreciate your perspective, and regrettably, because I'd love to sink my teeth into it this evening, agree that we need to kick this out for another meeting.
Ms. Joyce, do we need to have two motions or just make Mr. Odom's recommendation one motion to pursue the land and to delay the five-year plan until you and I come up with the next date? How's that with the board? Ms. Joyce can stay in touch too, and because we have a meeting on the 4th, and then we have a work session. I'm sorry, I don't have that written. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. Is the consensus to tag it on to the evaluation evening that we will have on the 4th, or to do the work session on the 9th?
Just depends on, my opinion, just depends on Odom and Mr. Sandvig can come up with between now and then. I think we definitely need to have a motion. Mr. Odom made a recommendation that be able to move forward. So I think the board's going to give them authorization to do so.
Do you want to make that motion, and then we'll come up with a date? So,
I'm fine. I just make, I'll make a motion to give them the authorization to negotiate land prices and bring something back to us. When we meet.
Second.
any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before we leave that, I will say it's really your decision as to when it appears on the agenda again. As chairman, you're setting the agenda. I think there's advantage to the 9th and the 11th, because if we are going to do some shifting, we can work on that on the 9th, and then we have a break, step away, come back on the 11th and be able to vote, as opposed to, shifting, thinking, did we do something wrong, and all of that taking place in the one meeting on the 4th. I like the 9th and 11th option.
Well, it gives us opportunity for all of us to have access to Mr. Odom and Mr. Clardy and Mr. Sandvig, and I think Mr. Odom would like to have a conversation with Ms. Nolan with the county anyway.
See where we are on the borrowing, what bonds and what time frame that we can do. She was actually out today and is out tomorrow in that too, so we kind of need to look at that piece.
Yet another vital component. Absolutely.
Well, I think it kind of lets us know. Of course, another thing as you begin to think about this, and we do dollars and cents, very often it takes 16 to 18 months to build the middle schools, say. So very often, and Mr. Jordan's dealt with that, it goes over 2 funding years very often, that you do part of it one year and part of it the next. So there's some things that play into that too that can change your need in a given year a little bit too.
No sense borrowing any money till you need it. And sometimes it's considerable lag time, even between starting and actually having to start pay the bills. And Ms. Nolan she knows how to piece that together pretty well.
Well, we want to have all hands on deck when we're making, decisions. It's 5 years, 2 and 5 years out too. So, okay. Yes, ma'am. I think, unless anybody objects, I think that would be the consensus of the board. I think we're good with that, Ms. Joyce. Mr. Odom, I guess we'll move on to 9 unless someone else has a comment.
Okay, this item is one that we did not discuss Tuesday night. We added this one because this came through from the state. It does have a deadline. We will meet again, but it is due the 15th to the state. But this is something that's been going on for several decades. It's a local education agency compliance report form that we have to file each year. LEAs, local education agencies, are required to comply with all state education laws and state Board of Education rules. The annual LEA compliance report form, due on December 15th, should state deficiencies and a compliance plan for each deficiency. The Commissioner of Education will not grant approval to LEAs that are not in compliance with the state education laws and rules that have no Tennessee Department of Education approval plan for compliance. Every school in Rutherford County has reviewed the compliance report form, including state rules and regulations. And the 2014 LEA compliance report shows there are no deficiencies. There's one deficiency which has been corrected since that time, right? Recommend approval motion to submit the 2014 LEA compliance report for Rutherford County. The legislature passes laws periodically, says the school shall, and this sometimes go back literally decades about what we will do. I mean, like display a flag and some things that you just really take for granted. But we have to certify that we're doing all these things on this compliance report. So that's what this is.
Heard the recommendation. Is there a motion? Okay, Mr. Young and Mr. Estes with a second. Any further comments or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think we're on number 10.
Number 10 is also an item that we added. This came through after Jeff met with them since Tuesday, the other night. It's Fund 189. This building program amendment addresses two areas. It cleans up $69,639 in line item expenditures for the Stewart's Creek High project and transfers those funds to high school project for a later high school project. So it tells us we came in under budget and actually saved a little bit of money, which is good. B is moves $324,612 from the Blackman Middle Annex project to cover the $4,534 deficit in middle school land and leaves $320,078 for land at the next middle school or middle school annex that the Commission approves. These are cleanup amendments and involve no new funding. As we wind down the Blackman Middle Annex and Smyrna Primary Addition projects, the remaining funds for those projects will be amended also. Recommend approval. Motion to amend building program budget within project for a total of $69,639 Stewart's Creek High project. Transfer that $69,639 to an unnamed later high school project, and to transfer $324,612 from the Blackman Middle Annex project to middle school land as presented. And of course, this again begins to change when we go to the Health and Ed and the Budget and Finance. Whatever you cost the land, we're being able to bring forward from the Blackman project. Part of that is already they've approved. So this will let us help clear some of that up also.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Holliday and Ms. Moore. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 11.
Number 11 is the new and revised policies, and for people listening, the board serves also along with some teachers, community citizens, and also the board on the committee that reviews our policies. First policy is policy 1.704, which pertains to charter schools. The purpose of this revision is to comply with the state law allowing 30 days rather than 15 days for a charter school sponsor to submit an amended application after denial of an initial charter school application. Policy 5.402 covers hepatitis B, and the purpose of this revision is to add behavior intervention teachers and educational assistants to the list of employees who are at high risk of exposure. Our system provides this immunization to some of our employees. So what this does is add immunization to the behavior mod teachers. Policy 5.302, sick leave. Purpose of this revision is to revise confusing language to allow an additional bereavement day for employees and to include a provision for classified sick leave bank. Policy 5.304, long-term leave of absence. Purpose of this revision is to include provisions requiring a physician statement for extensions of long-term leave and clarifying the length of time long-term leave may be granted. Policy 5.303, which is personal and professional leave. Purpose of this revision is delete the portion of the policy setting forth the amount of personal leave for employees. This designated amount of leave for employees will be included in an administrative procedure. Policy 6.411 is student wellness. The purpose of this revision is to add a provision encouraging periods of activity for students. And policy 5.108 is supervision. Purpose of this revision is to add provisions requiring employees to report being indicted as a perpetrator of child abuse by the Department of Children's Services and requiring teachers to report notice that a teaching license has been flagged by the Tennessee Department of Education for any reason. Policy 1.806 is advertising and distributing materials in the schools. The purpose of this revision is to add an exception to allow schools to sell advertisements in the form of ads and or signs as fundraisers for school programs and or interscholastic activities or athletics. Recommend approval. Motion to approve revisions of policies 1.704, 5.402, 5.302, 5.304, 5.303, 6.411, 5.108, and 1.806 on second and final reading as recommended by the Policy Committee.
Heard the recommendation? Mr. Estes? Mr. Young, a second. Any further comment? I know we've gone over these several times now. Had plenty of time to inspect and review. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, before we get into general discussion, so we're going to make sure that we have the building program on the next agenda for the 9th and the 12th. Okay. Okay, again, general discussion by board members. Anything tonight?
Mr. Blair, or
Yes,
Chairman, I'd just like to, first of all, I want to thank Ms. King for coming and speaking to us this evening. I think the meeting last week with the legislators in the City School Board was a very, very important one, and I'm pleased, always pleased to see when the public and the community is involved and concerned and then recognizes the importance of what happened last week. And I was encouraged, I know we've talked about that, I was very encouraged by the legislators and the response that we got, and just kind of want to remind everyone, especially the community, the importance of continuing to reach out and stay in contact with them, to put the emphasis, because one of the things that was of extreme concern to me the other night, and I've known that it's a problem for a while, but that is how not just Common Core, but all of the testing aspects and things that are going on are impacting our teachers, and that we do what we can to step up and protect them, which was a big part of what I heard from the legislators that night, too, in terms of the testing. So anyway, I just thought it was a great endeavor, and I think we need to continue to try to do that with them.
I strongly agree. You know, I look at it and think with all the testing and the technology factor that goes into us trying to do all that testing, you know, there's a physical note that they like to quote on a regular basis that affects us. And but I would love for our teachers to have a stable environment. It just seems like it's been years since they knew what was coming down the pike and was confident in it and could teach and go. And I'm very hopeful that we're going to get some things settled in this legislative year, and I think it behooves us as a board and our city board and to stay in constant contact with our legislators and our representatives.
I want to say again the same thing I said the other night. I'm just so disappointed that there's no record whatsoever, evidently, of that meeting on film, or there were no minutes. There's nothing, and that was a terrific meeting that went so much better than I had hoped. I thought we got a lot accomplished, as Ms. Moore said, and I want to just kind of dovetail that into something that we've said since then. The other night about having another meeting, and I suggested May, and Mr. Hodge immediately suggested, well, what about during the session if they're, which they will inevitably will do, are discussing something and we'd like to have some input in. I don't know if we could get another meeting with them. You said we would host this next one, which would be excellent. I don't know if we could get with them during the session or not. I don't know if that's possible. They have so many committee days and then the actually meeting days. I don't know if that would work or not, but it certainly won't work if we don't try. Right. And I just think that's perhaps after the first of the year something we ought to give some discussion to. As to there's no law that says we got to wait a year to meet with them. I mean, we could do that in May or March or February.
Mr. Holliday and I went to the conference luncheon, and we heard Governor Haslam speak, but I'm not sure that we could glean very much from that talk, Mr. Holliday. So it was quite the cheerleading opportunity, I guess.
The governor is proud of what we've accomplished in the state of Tennessee, as we all should be. The improvements in the NAEP standards are outstanding. The advancements that we've made are certainly significant, but the pace and the mixed messages that have accompanied that have been detrimental, and we've got to reconcile that. As others have said, it was so refreshing to hear such an understanding of that characteristic from our legislators. When Senator Jim Tracy opened the meeting with one of his very first comments saying that he knew and understood that the standards and the assessment tool had to be aligned, that was a critical moment for me, for him to understand that and to express it so clearly. The governor has a lot of things ahead of him and on his agenda, not the least of which is finding a new commissioner of education. And we got no perspective about where he was heading with that appointment from his comments on Monday.
Wasn't showing his cards.
Not at all. I mean, he spoke of a commitment to Tennessee educators and those who are in the trenches, but he also spoke of outside new ideas and fresh perspectives from beyond the borders of our state. He spoke of both with what I would characterize as an equal level of importance. So it is absolutely critical that we stay engaged and make sure that our voices are heard and influence those decisions.
Mr. Odom, anything else tonight?
I can report one thing to you. A few months ago, you approved purchasing some additional filtering software for our internet system, and a little after 7 this morning, I was with Steve Solomon, and that has been installed. They were in a WebEx and a telephone conversation with the company to tweak it, to try to get the levels where we could control it. We're teachers sometimes use YouTube. There's some good instructional lessons on it, and there's a lot of things you don't want to come through on YouTube. But this software does some filtering for us even in those cases to help stop, cut off. And so they were in the process of trying to optimize all the qualities in that software. So it's comforting to me to know that we're working on it. Can we stay ahead of all that? I don't know. Let's see, but we're absolutely trying.
Does that make us cutting edge?
I don't know. It maybe keep us off the cutting edge if we can get the filtering to work well.
There you go.
Mr. Blair, I think, I don't intend this to be self-serving for us at all necessarily, but I believe the other night at this meeting that this board and the city board, as relating to Common Core and other issues as well, but I'll just keep this to Common Core. It would have been hard to any legislator to leave that meeting not knowing exactly how the 14 people on the 2 school boards felt. Impossible. You had to be asleep not to know. Well, I just say this loudly. Teachers, it's now your turn. Go ahead. Let them know. They're not hiding down there. And they had better listen, I would think. And someone, a parent that emailed me this week, I don't know about y'all, but I'm getting plenty of emails on this. I assume you are too. But I had one parent bring this up, and they wanted to know that if Common Core were passed and put into effect, would test scores, were any of us expecting test scores to actually go up? Now, that's a good question. Now, you come to your own decision on that, but I think that's something that we ought to be thinking about. Well, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination thinking that the answer to that question is yes. Test scores will go up. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I'm open-minded. I'll listen. Thank you.
All right, anything else to come before this board? We'll be back together on the 4th to do Mr. Odom's evaluation. That's always fun and exciting. So, okay. your staff over there looks a little restless, so we'll let them get out of here too. So without anything else, we stand adjourned.